Which group of agents is most likely to mishandle a call? Is it the experienced or is it the new? From what I've gathered in the past, the most likely to mishandle a call is the new agents. Reason for that is because they do not have the training, the product experience, and also the practice to be able to handle a call from the onset. Now, there are certain agents who are special enough to be able to handle such, but if they are able to practice and do the same things that the experienced agent does in an amount of time, then they'll be able to be at par with those experienced agents. Which group of agents is most likely to mishandle a call? Is it the experienced or is it the new? From my experience, and based on the other clients that I've handled in the past, most often that mishandle of calls are new agents. The reason for this is because these new agents do not have the same training, product knowledge, and practice that the experienced agent has, and they don't have the time as well. Now, if they are given that time and that learning curve to be able to adapt, then they'll be able to be at par with those experienced agents. There are certain agents though that are very special enough to be able to cope it, but these are 1 out of 100. But again, it's all about just being able to adapt to all the experiences that you'll be able to receive, such as training, product, and practice. And in no time, they'll be able to do so and be at par with those experienced agents. In your experience handling agents, is being inefficient and lacking enthusiasm on the part of the agent being considered rude? Can you give us an example? Actually, based on the experience that I have done in the past and other clients that I've handled, being rude doesn't necessarily mean you are inefficient, and also you lack enthusiasm, because to begin with, when you say inefficient, you sometimes, you mean well, but again, not because you're not just doing your job, then you become inefficient. In the same token, that when you lack enthusiasm, sometimes you can be sleepy, or sometimes you're just not into the zone, into confidence. It may seem that you're not rude, but you're not. When I say rude really means that you are being impossible to the customer. You're not trying to help them out, you're not trying to do what you're supposed to do. Now, for me, there are certain ways of being rude, but definitely it's not inefficient or being lacking of enthusiasm. For me, the fact that you are not helping and doing your job already is something that will be constituted as being rude. Do we follow a set of rules every time issues like these arise? Yes, actually we do. Now, the standard of which is we do coaching. But other than coaching, of course, we want to ensure that we practice our agents. We train them, we let them listen to calls, and to make them realize of what they've done. Now, sometimes it becomes effective, sometimes it does not. And that's why it's important for us to be able to review, retrack, and also give them recommendations on how for them to be able to handle these calls. Now, of course, if they do it again, there's another story. We will have to do what we have to do. But again, it's about from the agent standpoint. If we really want to help the customer, we will do everything to be able to do so. What's your opinion on mishandled calls? What can we do to avoid them from happening again in the future? Well, my take on mishandled calls is that it's something that is unavoidable. It will definitely happen, but it can be avoided. Now, what are the things that we should do to avoid these? Well, number one, if we keep on practicing and we keep on retraining our agents to be able to keep them realize or make them realize what are mishandled calls, it's all about awareness. Now, if we make them aware of what mishandled calls are, then they'll be able to know and not do those calls ever again. Another thing is, if we are able to coach them accordingly and make them listen to calls that they've done in the past, and that's something that they can build upon and learn from, and time will be able to give them experience to be able to not do those again. Now, the other aspect of this is, if we give them good samples of calls that how they're supposed to be handled in the first place, then we'll be able to give them a good practice, and it will be a good running motion for them to be able to do in the future. Which group of agents is most likely to mishandle a call? Is the experienced or the new? Based on my experience and also based on the clients that I've handled in the past, the most often that handled are the new agents. Why? Because they are the agents that are not trained yet, that do not have the practice nor the communication skills to be able to adapt to the cause per se. Also, they don't have the product knowledge that the experienced agents have. Now, we also have what you call a learning curve, wherein if they are able to do all these three things, then they'll be able to adapt and be able to be at par with the experienced agents. Now, the other aspect is we also look at there are special agents that can handle these, and without the learning curve would be able to be at par with the experienced agents at first. But again, they're 1 out of 100. So in general, we always look at the new agents and give them the time and the preparation to be able to be at par with the experienced agents. And once they do, then they'll be able to do the same things the experienced agents does, and eventually those mishandled calls will be for naught. Which group of agents is most likely to mishandle a call? Is it the experienced or the new? Based on my experience and also those clients that I've handled in the past, the most likely to mishandle a call are actually new agents. Why? Because these agents actually do not have the training, the product knowledge, and the practice to be able to handle situations during a live call. Now, if they're able to have a learning curve and to be able to get all these three things done, then they would be at par with those experienced agents. Now, there are special agents that are very good, wherein they'll be able to address this learning curve early and be able to be at par with experienced agents. But again, these are 1 to 100. Now, that's why we give them the time and preparation for these new agents to be able to do so. And once they do so, then they'll be able to be experienced just like the others. In your experience handling agents, is being inefficient and lacking enthusiasm on the part of an agent being considered rude? Can you give us an example? Well, based on the experiences that I've had in the past, not necessarily that rudeness can really relate to inexperience or inefficiency and lacking enthusiasm. There are situations, for example, inefficiency could be I have the will to be able to want to help the customer, but because I'm just not being efficient at what I do, and sometimes I do things that are not supposed to be done, then it would seem rude from the customer's point of view. But from the agent's point of view, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to. Now, in lacking enthusiasm, sometimes I could be sleepy, sometimes I could not, my mind is just not there. I mean well, but again, I'm not able to do what I'm supposed to do. From the customer's point of view, it becomes rude, but for me, as an agent, it's not. Now, how do we correct this is another story. What's important for me is that I would present myself to the customer's point of view and not being rude, but again, just try to do my job. As long as it's not major in the sense that I'm not not showing that I'm really rude. For example, if I was mimicking a customer, or I was not being helpful, or deliberately not trying to help the customer, then that would be rude, and that is blatantly rude on my part. So again, I would be able to help a customer, and if I mean well, that it would not partake, or it would not be relayed upon the customer as being rude. Do we follow a set of rules every time issues like this arise? Yes, actually, to be honest with you, based on my experience, we do have protocols in addressing issues every time there's our mishandled calls. Again, coaching is something that is a given. We make sure that we let our agents listen to the call as to what happened, so that they'll realize what they need to do and what they shouldn't do next time around. Now, the other thing is we also make them listen to calls that are positive and that are properly handled calls. If we do that, then they'd have an idea of how to handle it the next time around. Now, if there are new agents, that's another story, because sometimes new agents just do not know how it's done. And that's the time that we do these. But for inexperienced agents, it's another story. We just have to re-emphasize and restate what are the values and reasons why we need to do what's right on the call. Now again, if I am giving the correct responses, then they'll be able to take it with a grain of salt and be able to do that on the next call.